We've been eating really well lately with awesome survival horror games, mainstream hits like Silent Hill and Chronos and Resident Evil, of course, but we've also got those indie titles for the hardcore survival horror sickos: Signalis, Crow Country, Tormented Souls. And now we got Ground Zero, which looks to be another mighty entry into this survival horror renaissance.
We expect most life forms will be dead by now, but lethal arms will be provided in case of hostile encounters.
Hostile encounters?
But there's something special about Ground Zero. This game feels like it's ripped out of time, like one of those weird Resident Evil adjacent games like Dino Crisis or, I don't know, Cold Fear. But it's not just emulation. Despite being deeply authentic to the PS1 era stylings, it all feels surprisingly fleshed out, with a long campaign spanning multiple environments, a couple of characters, and loads of weapons, puzzles, and unlockables. And all of this is married to the dead-on accurate graphics of the time that makes Ground Zero feel kind of elevated in a way that a lot of its peers don't. Like, this feels like what it felt like to play those older Resident Evil games, including some of the jank, but also with a lot of modern niceties as well.
Definitely not. No way. Are you kidding?
You've got a parry system and a dodge mechanic, purchasable weapons, and multiple paths to take from some of the levels. Because yeah, you can take different paths in a few spots and it'll lead you to drastically different areas. It kind of reminds me of those live choice things from the original Resident Evil 3, if those spun out into like hour-long segments. So all that to say, there's a lot going on here, and I think the thing that really stands out to me about Ground Zero is just how fleshed out it all feels, with a substantial like 10+ hour campaign, plenty of unlockables and things to chase down, all wrapped up in a style that is so authentic to an era of games that it's born from. So it's all here, and it's not perfect by any means, with some noticeable bugs and some pacing issues, but I'm willing to give a project like this a lot of grace for just how ambitious it feels. I'm impressed by the authenticity of this game, how it feels less like an emulation of a time and place and more like a missing piece of that era. I like how feature-rich it feels, and I like that it isn't just set in another Midwestern mansion somewhere, but instead it's set in Korea, along slippery boardwalks and amusement parks. And I like that it feels big when most other survival horror indies kind of feel small. So let's talk about it.
Evan Fielding.
Ranks.
Captain, 13th Special Mission Brigade.
Decapitation unit.
Correct.
Lieutenant.
So for spoilers and things, I'm really only going to talk about stuff up till about the halfway point of the game. I won't spoil really anything about the story or show anything from the final couple levels, but I will be talking about enemies, some puzzles, weapons, and some post-game unlockables. Cool? So Ground Zero starts off strong with its premise right off the bat. You play as Sao Yun, an elite operative from Korea sent in with her partner Evan, a Canadian agent from a kind of joint task force thing to investigate a meteor that's hit a city in South Korea, devastating the area and spreading a kind of infection. You know the stuff.
They haven't told me shit. Take this gun, fly to Korea, don't ask questions, good luck, Godspeed. That's just how Canada rolls.
It's a setup that is not too unfamiliar, but it's also not very safe. Gone are the Midwestern mansions, and in are switchback streets of small towns, rain-slick boardwalk amusement parks, and sprawling industrial complexes. Yeah, you'll wind up at a police station, but you'll also be picking through an abandoned museum. I'm impressed by the variety of environments here and just how authentic they all look. Not sure how they managed to pull off this pre-rendered background look so well with 3D environments. They wear the influences on their sleeves, obviously, but the creativity is pretty flowing here too. The game is just so pretty to look at in that retro way. It's like some piece of lost media, canceled Capcom game found on a dusty, unmarked CD in some shadowy records room somewhere and built up by loving fans. There's nothing I love more than darting around through the ruined streets of South Korea low on health with an ever-growing horde of zombies trailing after me. There's some serious Resident Evil 3 adoration going on here, and I swear the chaotic, cramped roads, blocked alleys, and empty buildings are inspired by Jill's escape from Raccoon City. Hell, So Yun even wears a weird outfit and a beret, and she talks with her hands. Classic.
There's a black box in the tower that holds the meteorological data for the past 2 months.
Also, similarly to the classics, of course, this game plays with tank controls or a modern variation. And I found the tank controls work better, though I am a little biased. I I found that with the modern controls, I kept doing that thing where I'd spin around like a top when the camera angle changes. The tank controls made for smoother navigation for me as the fixed camera angles swap around. And speaking of that, this game actually understands how to use fixed camera angles, setting up scenes that draw you in, give you pretty clear mapping as to where you can go and what you can interact with, often with effective use of lighting to kind of lead you forward. You're not really going to have those moments where you go, oh my god, I didn't realize I could go that way because it wasn't clear or there was something off camera. It all just makes for a pretty comfortable exploration. Many of the areas that you move through are wider, taking place outdoors or aside from places like the police department or hospital, give you multiple routes to move around a room. It's smooth, man. It feels familiar and easy to play. It's like we never left those streets of Raccoon City or the broken down hallways of the RPD. The exploration here is even more of a focus than in those games it's emulating. You'll find optional areas locked behind key doors, branching paths that might derail you for a bit but lead you to an ammo depot or a new weapon or some healing items. And that kind of opens up what you might like or dislike about Ground Zero. These levels are big. They're more sprawling than maze-like, with lots of long roads that lead to dead ends or locked doors that you need to come back to later. You'll be locked down in the main areas like the police station, theme park, or university for a couple hours each as you puzzle through them, unlocking doors, finding keys, building out the map. These levels are for the most part great, with a tangible sense of progression as you work through it. It's classic.
And I don't know how this shit works, but I'm gonna trust my gut and my team on this one.
Something I've noticed in the modern Resident Evil games is that they often place key items like ridiculously close to where you need to use them, which cuts down on backtracking, sure, but it also alleviates that sacred ritual of checking your map and retracing your steps and scratching your head as you exhaustively search around for where you use that key or whatever. This is not an issue with Ground Zero. You might clear out an entire zone but miss one single door that you need to go through or miss that one item that you need to interact with, which could bloat your time drastically. Yeah, there's something with the pacing of these levels that I can't quite feel out. Like, I don't want handholding for sure, but simultaneously, the map kind of sucks here. Sometimes it's not totally accurate to what's actually there, like this blocked hallway that appears open, or when you enter certain areas and you lock out the rest of the floor from view, or how you can't toggle between floors. That's a big one. Especially with the police station that demands that you go all the way up to the third floor, down to the basement and back as you puzzle your way through. For areas as winding and sprawling as these, man, I really need to be able to get a bird's eye view. Let me know if I missed one item in these rooms, or if I fully explored it. You'll get markers for objectives, yeah, and items laying around, but I never felt like I could totally rely on that. And with only general guidance that updates pretty infrequently, you might get held back now and again. Just some tweaks to the way the map populates or some better contextual clues I think would alleviate a lot of this. Continuing with the pacing stuff, most of the big zones are connected by somewhat filler areas like this one where you have to sprint through multiple zones just to piece together two parts of a crank, then backtrack all the way to lower a bridge. Not much is gained from these more linear sections, but you do get to run through some awesome looking environments which never gets old. And to be clear, it's not the puzzles that are the issues with the pacing. The puzzles are pitch perfect, man, and they run the spectrum from standard lock and key stuff to math puzzles to claw machines to finding information in notes to controlling the temperature of individual rooms. Like I said, this is a long game, but you'll never get bored of the puzzles. They never employ that weird moon logic in something like Tormented Souls. I played on normal puzzle difficulty, and yeah, you may need to find the weird animal-themed key for this gate in the middle of a city street, but you'll never play Simon Says with a vending machine. Some answers are as simple as reading a note, but other times you're collecting personal information on the chief of police to piece together his email password, or arranging train tracks to navigate through an area, or you're figuring out how to get through a mall that's engulfed in flames. You'll just be seeing and doing a lot in this game. It's all pretty sensible and engaging without stretching too far into mind-numbingly easy or too difficult of a territory to kill the pacing. And you won't even experience all of this on your first playthrough because you have branching paths for the first few levels. And yeah, I mean, these are totally different levels, man, hours long. Now, it's not the entire game that's like this, really, it's just a couple of early levels and then a few on the back end, but it's substantial enough that will absolutely warrant multiple playthroughs. Splitting these up into run-defining choices was a good call because if they had made them kind of a sequential thing, it would have made the game definitely too long. But as it stands now, they serve as a nice temptation to do another run. Good stuff.
I'll take the amusement park. There's no need to take unnecessary risks.
But you're not just exploring and solving puzzles. This game is also pretty loaded in its combat suite as well. Zombies and zombie dogs and weird bugs and zombie dinosaurs have taken over and they want you dead. But that's fine because you have a parry system. Xiao Yang comes equipped with a pistol and a knife and a shoe-mounted assassin blade thing to kill literally everything she comes across. I played on controller, and it's surprising of just how much of that controller real estate the game demanded I use. Time a perfect block, and you can follow up with a parry to buy some space or line up another shot, down an enemy, and go in for the execution. If you have some distance and some time, you can hold the A button to line up a focus shot for an instant kill, taking a page out of Kevin Raymond's book. You can do this with literally any of like the 20 weapons in the game, so it's a great way to stretch your ammo. Though maybe it shouldn't be an insta-kill with the 9mm ammo, which is intended to be used by the least damaging burst fire weapons. You'll be doing a lot of fighting, and Xiao Yan is more than capable of dispatching everything she comes across. As is tradition, a single zombie can be taken on pretty easily, but it gets a little harder in groups. You don't have to fight everything, as most of these levels are wide enough to kind of kite guys around, but be careful because there's no way to nudge past these dudes. I had more than a few times where I got completely boxed in. There are so many guns in this game. A few attachments to add, grenades, environmental explosives. You even have a point system. Scan a corpse and it'll net you points depending on how you killed it. A knife kill will get you a perfect score, but a shotgun blast will ruin your gains. You're just constantly unlocking new gear and buying things from the shop, another thing that just really helps justify the runtime. You also have a syringe that you can combine these boosters in to heal and change your stats, and this is where I encountered what I have to assume was a bug. Okay, so you can increase your defense by combining enough of the right stuff. Naturally, I did this because you begin the game pretty vulnerable. I think I just did it so much that I became invincible. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I did not heal a single time from around the halfway point of the game, and man, I tried to take damage. I sat in place and got chomped on for minutes and nothing.
Definitely not. No way. Are you kidding?
I have to assume that this was a bug because you also have these blue ones that reduce or prevent infection, and yeah, that was not a mechanic that appeared to exist in the game whatsoever. Yeah, and then like as soon as I started my New Game Plus run, I immediately got bit and then was infected. So here's hoping this gets looked at because something isn't right here. Beyond that, there are like 6 levels of combat and puzzle difficulty to work with, and I'm eager to see what those feel like. I feel like I can't totally comment on how the combat and survivability is balanced in the late game because of how it went for me, but you definitely have the firepower to punch your way through. The combat and exploration is more than enough to keep you on board for the runtime, but they make a good attempt at the story and characters as well, with frequent enough cutscenes and dialogue to splice into the pacing of everything else. The broader story strokes might be a little clunky, but it's campy and self-serious enough for the genre. I'm not going to talk much about it other than, man, I really like the writing here.
People? You mean...
It seems like it's able to control anything that used to be alive. I'm telling you, Xiao Yan, watch out. Look around you. This place is covered in bodies. This plant thing could be affecting any one of them. Dog, human, fucking whale, who knows what else. How many people live in Busan, Xiao Yan?
4 million.
Oh boy. 4 million zombies, huh? Stay safe out there. Fuck.
Specifically with our 2 protagonists, they team up right off the bat and spend the entire game collaborating together, checking in on one another and problem solving, even if they're separate for most of it.
You're not taking that with you, are you?
Yeah, why not? You never know, we might find a spare missile lying around.
I guarantee you there are no anti-tank missiles just lying around the city.
It sounds like someone's jealous she doesn't have her own javelin.
You do get to team up every now and again, and that's nice. There's a fair amount of attention paid to the writing. The story itself is whatever, but the way that Xiao Yan and Evan kind of go back and forth, puzzle through their situation, and explain their thinking is pretty great.
Whatever's in there's giving off that much heat. It's got to be expending a lot of energy.
Under that thick cloud cover, it could be generating localized conditions similar to a mesocyclone.
Huh. Like a condensed supercell. Not good.
They actually have some lengthy back and forth and a few relationship building moments as well.
Not the worst noodles I've had.
It's not? This place must be getting to you.
It's really refreshing to actually have characters with a sense of personality. Xiao Yang might be a little dry, but she's mission driven and no nonsense. And Evan is just a nice dude.
Saoyun! That plant thing! I saw it! I saw that puppet thing!
Xiao Yang will also make frequent check-ins with her supervisors in Korean too, code switching when needed. Very cool.
본부 장대희입니다. 감천 해변가 부두 곳곳에 이상한 유기 물질이 자라.
They're just consistently fun characters to watch, and I love that they really tried with the writing and pacing across the board. I feel like we hand wave away this aspect with a lot of survival horror games, and I'm glad the devs didn't here. Really good stuff, surprisingly well done, and I think this aspect will stand especially tall against its peers. So yeah, man, Ground Zeroes is really good. Even with the bugs I encountered, I loved my time with it. Like I said, I'm willing to give a game this scale made by a dev team this size a lot of grace. As all of my complaints I hope are things that can be shored up. What's here is a love letter to the classics that doesn't just emulate those formulas, but spins in some modern niceties and surprises in its length, optional paths, environments, and characters. It feels authentic to the era it's trying to replicate, but it goes so far beyond pure emulation to feel like something just ripped out of time. I think this might be the most authentic Resident Evil clone I've played, with a deep understanding of the vibe and aesthetics of the classics. It's got pitch-perfect environments, the puzzles, the combat, the goofy story, the weird outfits, and beyond that, it's also got loads of unlockables, new difficulties, tons of weapons, and costumes for all the characters. It even has a fucking mercenaries mode with 6 unlockable players. You can feel the love poured into this game, and I think it goes without saying that I absolutely recommend this to any survival horror head who's pining to experience a time and place we can generally only fondly revisit in the classics. Thanks for watching.